There it is. Shall we?
All right, you're ready to go.
Okay. It is 10 a.m. still, and I would like to call to order the meeting of the Board of Directors of Friday, May 20th, 2022. Before we start, please note this meeting is live streamed on YouTube and recorded. Members of the public are encouraged to watch and listen to the meeting on YouTube. But if you would like to provide public comment at today's meeting, and if you haven't done so already, and take your pencils and paper out here because I'm going to repeat this, please call 415-569-6446. Again, 415-569-6446, and let the facilitator know you would like to provide public comment. I appreciate everyone's patience as we move through today's meeting. Madam Secretary, the roll call, please.
Thank you, and good morning again, everyone. Starting with Director Arnold.
Here.
Director Conroy.
Present.
Director Garbarino.
Present.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosbol.
Present.
Director Hernandez.
Here.
Director Maston.
Here.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Present.
Director Rabbit.
Here.
Director Rodoni.
Here.
Director Snyder.
Here.
Thank you. Director Stephanie is absent. Director Thier.
Here.
Second Vice President Hill.
Present.
First Vice President Cochran.
Here.
And President Tirio.
Here.
Thank you. And I believe you have a quorum and you are at 14.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to confirm staff on the line. Dennis Mulligan.
Here.
Joe Wire. Joe Wire may not be on. Let's move on then. John Eberle sitting in
Here.
for Ava. Thank you. Kim Manolius.
Morning.
Morning. David Rivera.
Morning, present.
Mona Babauta.
Present.
Jim Swindler.
Present.
And Kelly Hopper.
Good morning.
Good morning. That confirms staff on the line.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. As at the last meeting, I will apologize in advance. This is a fairly urban setting here. There's a busy street right out that window. The 29 Sunset goes by fairly frequently along with various other things. And so you'll hear some background noise in the course of this meeting. That's unavoidable unless I shut up completely, which many folks might want. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning for our first video and audio meeting, and ask for your continued patience as we go through today's board meet agenda. I'd like to remind my colleagues to mute their microphones and remember to unmute when we open up for directors' discussion. If we have directors calling in by phone, please use your mute button or *6 to unmute yourself. I will ask for any questions or comments on items on the agenda. Click on reactions and raise hand on your computer. There's a little yellow hand that comes up if you have a question, or press *9 for the raise hand function if joining by phone. If there are any questions, the secretary or I will call on you accordingly. If we missed your raise hand, please speak up. Following our discussion, we'll make the appropriate roll call vote. If you're not speaking, please remember to mute your phones to minimize the background noise on today's meeting. Please follow along by referring to the page numbers located on the bottom right-hand corner of your meeting packet. Director Rodoni, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, board members. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Rodoni. Before we move on to public comment under item 4, Madam Secretary, we had 6 at your last count. How many callers do we have on today who might speak under public comment as of your current count?
We may have 7 now, but we have actually we have 5. Justine just let me know there was 5, so we'll update that as she goes through the list. I just also wanted to note that Supervisor Director Stephanie just joined us, so welcome, Director Stephanie.
Thank you. Good to be here.
All right, thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item number 4 for public comment for any and all items on today's agenda. So if you wish to speak to an item today on our agenda, please speak to it now. Justine's facilitating our public line. So in a second, I'm going to have Justine introduce the first speaker. Justine, go ahead.
Good morning, thank you. Our first speaker this morning is Kimberly Renee Gamboa. Kimberly Renee?
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Okay, yes. My name is Kimberly Renee Gamboa, and I am holding one of my favorite photos of my 18-year-old son, Kyle Emerson Gamboa, smiling brightly in his high school class picture. Kyle jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge on September 20th, 2013 at 11:45 a.m. I wanted to thank you for your continued efforts on the Golden Gate Bridge suicide deterrent. And today I'm following up a request that my husband, Manuel Gamboa, had made at the pre-Golden Gate Bridge meeting. We were requesting that the families of lost loved ones could possibly sign net support or another portion of the suicide deterrent system. If you could please let us know if this is possible, and if so, it probably should be scheduled soon. Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Gamboa, for your ongoing comments in these meetings. And I will refer your request to the general manager and staff. Ms. Bach, the next speaker, please.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dave Rohde. Mr. Rohde, go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Dave Rohde. I'm with the Climate Reality Project. My apologies again for what you heard at the end of my call last month from the Civic Center Plaza where I was attending an Earth Day rally. I didn't even know that you'd heard the altercation I had there until I was informed of it a few days later. The last thing I want to do is distract from the reality of the climate crisis we're facing and the role you can play in helping mitigate its impact. Last month, a new UN report indicated that carbon emissions from 2010 to 2019 were the highest in human history. UN General Secretary Antonio Guterres said, "This is proof that the world is on a fast track to disaster." The scientists who authored the report argued that limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade has become a now or never proposition. We don't seem to be getting that message here in California, where the stated goal is to achieve carbon neutrality by 2045. That's 10 years too late. One of the many reasons we're not moving fast enough is the state's low-carbon fuel standard established by CARB in 2009. A major byproduct of this program is that replacement fuels like renewable diesel have become so popular that it's gone from being labeled a bridge fuel to becoming an excuse for not electrifying transportation. I'm happy to announce that the Bay Area chapter of the Climate Reality Project has now taken an official stance in opposition to biofuel proliferation. We will be campaigning at the state and local level for legislation that places limits on the amount of biofuel the state can use. We now see biofuel as a climate justice issue. While half of the world is facing food scarcity, we're now switching millions of acres of croplands from growing food to growing fuel. At this rate of biofuel proliferation, 20% of all the arable lands in the world will be used for growing biofuel crops by 2030. The looming question for this board is, how can you become more of a solution and an example in achieving clean transportation? A year ago, after a presentation on your zero-emissions bus rollout plan, I heard board members agree that whenever possible, you will step up your timeline to purchase fully electric buses. I trust that you're still committed to that idea, and I urge you to actively seek out the means of accomplishing it. I also see that Dennis Mulligan is seeking your support today to work with the San Francisco Bay Area Water Emergency Transportation Authority for a 6-month demonstration project with a hydrogen fuel cell ferry. Your support for this project is another step in the right direction, although I should clarify, hydrogen energy receives mixed reviews from clean energy experts. The key is green hydrogen, not the hydrogen produced by methane, a greenhouse gas 80 times more potent than carbon. But I also urge you to keep considering all-electric ferries. In the years since I last reported on them, electric ferries continue to get faster and operating costs are as much as 80% less than a diesel ferry. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Rohde. I won't comment on the last month's incident, except to say that there was a certain amount of comedy involved, which I did appreciate. Next speaker, Ms. Bach.
Our next speaker is Mark Colombo. Mark, go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My name is Mark Colombo, and I'm calling you today to advise that the Clipper START program, which you all are familiar with, is ineffective often. And the reason I say that is that the Clipper START program, often the fare boxes are misprogrammed so that the discount is not obtained. And what that results in is continued overcharging for economically people in economic difficulties that are eligible for the Clipper START card granting 50% off fares often doesn't actually yield that 50% discount because the Clipper boxes on the buses are not properly programmed. I have been around and around and around with Golden Gate supervisors, Clipper card supervisors, Clipper START program people, and everyone is pointing the finger at somebody else. And so because you all are the directors, I am bringing it to your attention that the Clipper START program is not yielding the discounts as advertised, and I am frustrated in my attempt to get a refund for overcharges. And I would certainly appreciate any guidance on this matter and a specific point person to follow up with when appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colombo. Ms. Bach, the next speaker, please.
Our next speaker is David Popel. David, go ahead.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. So despite some minor issues, I think that meetings both by phone and on Zoom and YouTube are going well. Although I thought that just meeting by phone was fine. I was fine with that for 2 years. I'm sure that a number of people are working hard behind the scenes to make that happen in different district departments. And so I just wanted to appreciate both the folks that we see and hear and those that we don't see and hear for making that happen. Looking at the consent calendar, the adjournment in memoriam from the last meeting, I did not know about that beforehand. So I just wanted to take a moment to remember Bob David. Bob David was a longtime district employee, worked in the graphics department, was a key photographer, cared very much about the history of the bridge and the district. I believe he created the first transit guide and was instrumental in providing effective passenger communications for many years. And just a very quick story. Director Maston heard this the other night at BPAC, but I'll just repeat it. I believe Bob was involved in the Golden Gate National Recreation Study in the early 1970s that was looking at improving access to GGNRA space, both in Marin and San Francisco, on public transit involving Golden Gate and Muni. And that was referred to as, as I say, the Golden Gate National Recreation Study. Or googerness. And so if you go to very old people who've been around for 50 years or more, they know about that. I'm not even sure that Alan Zaradnik goes back that far, perhaps Jerome Kuykendall, but I believe Bob was involved in that. And so it's just a little bit of history, and Bob was just a great person, quite a character, and I will fondly remember him. 3 other items very quickly. I spoke yesterday on the initial budget presentation for next year, and I plan to follow up in writing with additional detail on bus service, operator hiring, and other issues there. But thank you for listening to me on that. I referenced a few minutes ago my question about the status of the board-approved pedestrian and bicycle advisory committee. There is some reference to it on the district website, but I'm interested in an application, and if someone could send me an application, I'd be interested in applying for that. And finally, I'm also wondering about the status of SB 917, the transit coordination bill. I'm not following it closely, and there was no GAPI meeting this morning. So perhaps I could get a response on that. As always, thank you for listening. Keep up the good work. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Popel. Ms. Bach, that's 5. That's 4. We should have a couple more.
We do. We have Shane Weinstein as our next speaker. Shane, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, Chair Terrio and directors. Shane Weinstein, president of ATU. I represent all the bus operators. I'm speaking on the proposed budget that went in front of the Finance Committee yesterday and will be in front of you next month. But after looking at that proposed budget on page 117, the district has decided to budget 275 full-time operators for the coming year. Currently, we have 176 total. This is the lowest that we've ever had. Before I go forward, Mr. Mulligan stated in that committee meeting yesterday that Bridge Patrol is the only group to leave after 2 or 3 years. That's simply not true. We have had people leave in droves from 6 months to 20 years. And that's obvious with our loss. Again, we've lost 100 operators since August of 2020. And furthermore, we've lost 20 operators just since the beginning of this year. Since August of 2020, that same date, we have only brought on 4 people, 4 operators. Okay. At the same time, the district's pension plan that deals with the bus operators is in emergency status, funded at roughly 50% or lower. There is no chance whatsoever that the district is going to get anywhere near those 275 operators. But we're actually going in the opposite direction. We're obviously going down. Since this money is already budgeted for bus operators, my suggestion is if the district doesn't reach the 275 operator mark, that the monies that come from not reaching that 275 mark be used to pay off the unfunded liability of a pension plan that is funded, again, at 50% or less. And a plan that the district is also responsible for. This is a public pension plan, single employer in the state of California. The district is responsible for this plan. We have 176 operators paying into a pension plan with 400 to 450 retirees. So I think we can all do the math on how terrible a situation that's in. Let's not forget let's not forget as well, directors, that this is the ATU that fought for that initial $39 million that went towards the CARES Act that kept the district afloat when management was asking for $18 million. It was the ATU that fought for that. And one last thing, the Golden Gate Bridge with this pension plan that they're responsible for the drivers is the only public transit agency in the state of California that does not have an actuarially required contribution tied to their pension plan. And I would imagine anybody who has a pension on this board right now, there is an actuarially required contribution that is paid every single year, no questions asked. So I ask that we start doing the responsible thing, come up with a plan on how to fix this pension plan that is absolutely in emergency status. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein. Ms. Bach, is there anyone else?
President Terrio, if you don't mind, I would just like to ask if Manuel Gamboa has joined.
Please go ahead.
I thought that he might be calling in this morning. Thank you so much. Just like to find out if Manuel Gamboa is on the line this morning. I am not hearing him. Thank you so much. That's all our speakers for this morning.
And thank you everyone who has commented under public comment. Some of the comments, General Manager Mulligan, seem to be looking for a response from you, if you would.
Certainly, I apologize. Kimberly Renee Gamboa's comment, I could not hear what the ask was with respect to the net. My sound broke up for a couple seconds. If you could reiterate that, President Terrio.
What I understood, and I didn't hear it entirely well either, was that she was looking for a visit for the families affected by suicides from the bridge to the current construction of the net.
Okay, yes, then I look forward to scheduling that with the families. We met once before a couple years ago at the Richmond Yard. And so I would direct Ms. Gamboa to reach out to me directly, and my office will work with the Office of the Chief Engineer to schedule a visit, working through our public affairs folks. With respect to Mr. Rohde's comments, we agree wholeheartedly that the renewable diesel that we're currently using is a bridge fuel. It's not a long-term solution. It reduces our carbon footprint while we transition to a zero-emission future. I'm very appreciative of his supportive comments for our hydrogen fuel cell ferry demonstration. And I concur completely with him that hydrogen, just like electricity that you purchase off the grid, can be very clean or very dirty. And so we concur completely, but we're excited to be able to learn more about an electric ferry that in this case will be using a hydrogen fuel cell as the mode to generate the electricity. To Mr. Mark Colombo, I apologize. He should reach out to my offices, dmulligan@goldengate.org, and I'll personally get involved with that issue. The district was a huge advocate for Clipper Start, and if it's not working as it should on Golden Gate, I want to be personally involved in solving that. So I encourage him to reach out to me directly, and I will personally become involved in his issue because I know how important it is to everyone at the district, including the board. With respect to Mr. Popel, if he's interested in applying for the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee, we encourage him to. Most of the other items that were in that staff report have already been implemented, including the signage, the speed limit, and other items. And the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee is the last component of that that's coming together. And we are advertising that on our website, and we're doing focus outreach with some of the key advocates in the community. With respect to Mr. Shane Weinstein, the pension that employees have at the district is one of 4 different pension plans based on the union that represents them. 3 of those pension plans are in great shape. 1 is not. That is our bus driver's pension. We're very, very concerned about it. We look forward to the pension trustees acting as fiduciaries and making changes to stop giving away benefits or subsidizing benefits. It is not acting as fiduciary to give away spousal benefits, to have single people subsidize folks that have a spouse when they retire. And we look forward to them making the change that we agreed to in our last collective bargaining agreement that has not yet been made. And we look forward to negotiating a new collective bargaining agreement with them in the coming months, where the pension will be one of the key things that we're focused on. Because we do want to make sure that all of our employees at the district have a pension that's available to them. And I do call on the trustees to act as fiduciaries and to not give away pension benefits, not to subsidize benefits, and to have a correlation between the contributions received on behalf of an employee and the earnings associated with those contributions and the ultimate total pension payout to that person when they retire and to their surviving spouse if they have one. But we look forward to those negotiations, and I look forward to the GG TARP taking appropriate action pursuant to what the ATU Local 1575 contractually agreed to with us several months ago. With that, I'm available to answer any other questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there board members? Well, no, we'll wait actually till the general manager's report, I think, and then take questions for you, General Manager Mulligan. Onto the consent calendar, if you would, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Item number 5 is to approve the consent calendar, including approval of minutes from the committee and board meetings in April, as well as ratification of previous actions by the auditor controller. The consent calendar packet is located from pages 5 to 35 in that packet there. That's sitting next to me, and I know it's all in front of you as well. So I'll turn it back over to you, President Serio.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Are there board members with questions or comments on the consent calendar? Hearing none, I have one, Madam Secretary, and that is in the minutes of our last meeting, it's noted that Ms. Kimberly Renee Gamboa came on and said that she had not been able to get into public comment for various reasons during the usual slot in the agenda. But it does not then go on to say that the board reopened public comment to allow her to make her comment, and I think it should. So with that correction, which I think is minor, can I have a motion on this item?
So
moved. Second.
And there's a second. Madam Secretary, then a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We have a first and a second, and we are going to vote on item 5, starting with Director Arnold. Director Arnold?
All right. Aye.
Thank you. Director Conroy?
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosboll.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Tirio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 15 ayes.
Yes, I heard unanimity. So the motion passes. Madam Secretary, the next item, please.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 6A, and that is the report of the general manager. Staff report can be found on page 37 to 45 of your packet, and Dennis Mulligan is here and is right before us, and he's going to present his report. Dennis, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, President Tirio, members of the board, members of the public. My written report is before you. Before I walk through and highlight a couple of items in the report, I would like to respectfully ask that the board ratify an emergency action that I took. The emergency action was to award a construction contract to Power Engineering Construction related to the inner berth at the San Francisco Ferry Terminal with respect to ramp repairs. Last summer, during inspections of the facility, some cracks were noticed in some of the structural support beams. So we did a detailed inspection and we closed both the inner berths and outer berths, and we've been operating out of Gate B, which is adjacent to our facility. We, under an emergency procurement, hired Moffitt & Nichols, a well-respected marine engineering firm, to do a detailed assessment, to do structural calculations, and then ultimately a design. We applied for a permit from the Port of San Francisco, which owns the facility. We are their tenant. We received that permit on April 18th. So we awarded a construction contract to Power Engineering to do the repair at the inner terminal. The repairs will take 4 to 6 months. The repairs with Power Engineering is for $612,600, but that's just for the inner berth. The outer berth, the repairs will likely be more extensive. The overall estimated cost for the entirety of the work, the inspections, the analysis, the repairs to the inner and outer berths is likely to be in the neighborhood of $3.5 million when all is said and done. But at this juncture, I respectfully ask that you approve the emergency contract that I entered into with Power Engineering. And with that, I'll pause and ask for a motion.
Before we go on to the motion, are there questions or comments for the general manager on the emergency action? I see Director Hill. Director Hill, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just want to comment that if you've tried going on B, it is something that we really need very much to change back to the old. Besides the difficulty for the disabled that goes along with it, there isn't good wayfinding to it, and it is definitely a lower level issue with it. And each time I go down there, I wish we could get it done faster. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hill. I can't see everybody on my screen, so if go ahead and put a hand up if you would, and if I don't catch you, pipe up. Is there anyone else with comments or questions on General Manager Mulligan's emergency action? Hearing and seeing none, I will look for a motion on the action. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move.
There's a motion, and I think I heard a second also. Madam Secretary, did you get those? Okay, then please proceed to a roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on item 6A1, and that's going to be the emergency ratification of the general manager's action. And we have a first and second, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy. Director Conroy.
Aye. Sorry about that.
No problem. Thank you. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosboll.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
An enthusiastic yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Tirio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 15 ayes.
Then that constitutes ratification. Mr. Mulligan, continue with your report, please.
Thank you. The district has still continued to see impacts of the ongoing COVID pandemic. We are still seeing revenues from tolls and transit fares being down about $1 million each week compared to the same week pre-pandemic. So we're very, very grateful of all the federal pandemic relief money we've received from MTC and directly from the FTA with the most recent $75 million allocation. Overall, bridge traffic is down about 15 to 20% over the course of a week. However, during the morning commute from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., bridge traffic remains down about 30%. So the trips that have returned are not commute trips. Bus and ferry ridership are both down about 60 to 65%. And we look forward to welcoming commuters back as things slowly reopen. The current COVID wave, the sixth wave, is causing kind of a temporary pause in additional reopenings. So we think the upward trend that we've been seeing for many weeks, week over week, these last several months will pause for a couple of weeks until it settles back down. With respect to recognition of employees, I'm pleased to announce that bus operator Zena Selassie retired on May 1st after 20 years, 11 months, and 19 days of service with the district. Mr. Selassie joined the district as a bus operator on May 11th, 2001. Also, I'm pleased to announce that electrician April Dubois celebrated 20 years of service with the district on May 6th of this year. Then the Employee of the Month Committee, which is comprised of employees, not management, has selected bus operator Alejandro Gomez as the Employee of the Month for May of 2022. He's recognized for providing exceptional service and being a consummate professional to both customers as well as his colleagues. He's especially well-liked for bringing treats in and always has a smile for everyone that he encounters. He takes pride in his work. He's incredibly courteous, professional, and friendly. And he's been resilient in weathering the challenges and is a great bus operator. Being a bus operator has been very difficult during the pandemic. He was originally born in Mexico. He currently resides in Fairfield, California with his spouse, Pamela Waite, and his hobbies include photography and travel. And then in closing, I would be remiss if I did not mention that next Friday, May 27th, is the 85th anniversary of the Golden Gate Bridge opening to pedestrians, the first day it opened to the public. So we have a lot of aging assets, as Mr. Wire mentioned in our budget presentation yesterday, but the oldest asset we have is turning 85 a week from today. And with that, I'm available to answer any questions that the board may have.
Thank you, General Manager Mulligan. I'm sure Director Hernandez will join me in applauding the anniversary of Ms. Dubois, whom I know. Any other comments or questions for the General Manager on his report? Hearing none, the next is the report of the attorney. Madam Secretary, please introduce that. Madam Secretary, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, I put my microphone so I wouldn't hit it with my face, and instead I was very clever in keeping my voice away. So I thought, but I'm unmuted. Anyhow, okay, so back to item 6B. It's the report of the attorney, and Attorney Kim Manolius' staff report can be found on page 47 of the staff report packet. And we have Kim on the line to present his report. Kim, go ahead and start.
Good morning, everybody. Again, my report's before you if you have any questions.
That faded a bit, Mr. Manolius, but I'm sure that the directors have had an opportunity to peruse your report. Do any of them have questions for Mr. Manolius on the report? Hearing and seeing none. The next item, Madam Secretary.
We'll move on to item 6C, and that's the report of the chief engineer. And that detailed report can be found on page 9 in yesterday's B&O packet. It's found in page 25 of the packet. Ava Bauer-Furbish, as I mentioned earlier, is not here today. So we're going to have Deputy District Engineer John Eberly present this report. John, go ahead.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, President Theriot, members of the board. Our written report is included in your package. I would like to provide some update on the suicide deterrent system project, if I may.
Please.
So I wanted to report that the contractor has continued installing their access systems that they're using to install the net in both the north and south approach viaducts. And they've used that to install some additional net support arms there. Also, as reported last month, the contractor installed their temporary platforms near the mid-span of the suspension bridge that they will be using to install the net at that location. And they've actually started installing both the interior and exterior border cables at that location, moving north on both the east and west sides of the bridge. They've also installed another set of temporary access platforms just north of the south tower that they'll use for the same operation to install the interior and exterior border cables at that location. So they are progressing along and on this project with the net. And with that, I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have on the report.
Thank you, Mr. Eberly. I will note for members of the public that the report is available in all its glory on the public materials for the Building and Operating Committee meeting yesterday. Are there any questions for Mr. Eberly on the engineer's report? Questions or comments?
I did have one question, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed, Director Grosspaul.
John, thank you for that. It sounds that would seem to be a positive report as far as the progress on the suicide net. Do we still have the same projected date of sort of mid 2023, as far as you know, as at least getting the net completed?
That's correct. We still anticipate by mid to late of 2023 to have the majority of the net installed at all structures on the bridge.
I'm fine with that, although I didn't like the word majority. I was hoping it was all going to be done.
There's a couple locations right at the towers that they're going to leave out, but it's a very small portion. It has to do with access, but the majority on all the structures should be done by the end of next year.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Grosspaul. Are there any other directors with questions or comments for Mr. Eberly? Not seeing or hearing any. Madam Secretary, on with the agenda, please.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 8 since there are no other reports under item number 7. Item number 8A is the report of the Transportation Committee meeting of Thursday, May 19th. Summary of recommendations for this meeting is found on page 51 of your packet.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Colleagues, the action item under 8A was discussed at length at yesterday's Transportation Committee meeting before coming to us today for action. Chair Arnold, please begin your committee's report to the board.
Thank you, President Theriault. I'd like to start off by thanking ADA Compliance and Program Manager John Gaffney for providing us with a detailed report at yesterday's meeting. His presentation highlights the importance of planning for anything and everything that can happen so that ADA-related services to those that need them are provided for. That said, the Transportation Committee is recommending approval of item 8.8.1 to execute a second amendment to contract number 2022-F-085 Vivalon ADA shuttle bus services with Vivalon of San Rafael, California in the amount of $254,678 for emergency ADA backup service for the Larkspur Ferry as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
So there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second. Are there questions from comments from board members on item 8A1? Again, I'm looking and not seeing or hearing any. Madam Secretary, a roll call vote then, please.
Thank you. Voting on item 8A1 with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold.
Aye.
Director Conroy. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosspaul.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Theriault.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 15 ayes.
15 ayes, nobody opposed. That is approved. Madam Secretary, On to the next time. Oh, I should ask. Chair Arnold, is there anything more to report for your committee?
Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Then thank you for the good work. Madam Secretary, excuse me, please continue with the next item on the agenda.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 8B, which is a report of the Building and Operating Committee meeting of yesterday, Thursday, May 19th. And that summary of recommendations found on page 53 of your packet, and I'll turn it back to you, President Terrio.
Thank you. The 5 action items under 8B were discussed also yesterday in considerable detail at the Building and Operating Committee meeting before coming to the board for action. Chair Garbarino, I see you are supplied with water, which is good. Please begin your committee's report.
Thank you, President Therio. We had a very full and productive meeting yesterday and heard in-depth presentations by staff about the item and all items I'll be presenting. Thanks to the directors and staff for their engagement at the meeting. As chair of the Building and Operating Committee, I'm happy to start with item 8B1, recommending the board approve award of contract number 2022B043, aluminum clip fabrication for suspension bridge sound reduction project to Rushco Energy Specialist of Fort Worth, Texas, in the amount of $488,862.81, and establish a contract contingency in the amount of $48,886 as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
So there is another motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A couple of seconds popped up there. Madam Secretary, I'll let you sort those out. Are there questions or comments from board members on item 8B1? I am not seeing or hearing any. Madam Secretary, another roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on 8B1 with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold. May have lost Director Arnold. I think we just lost Director Arnold. So moving on, Dr. Conroy.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice. Is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Excitedly, aye.
Thank you. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier. Director Thier.
Aye.
Thank you. Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochrane.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
And I'm going to circle back just to double check that. Director Arnold, did you rejoin us? Not seeing here. Okay, you have 14 ayes.
14 ayes still constitutes an approval. The Richmond District thanks you. Chair Garbarino, on with your voluminous report, please.
Thank you. The Building and Operating Committee is also recommending approval of item 8B2 to approve award of contract number 2021B052, Golden Gate Bridge Toll Plaza Administration Building Elevator Repairs and Improvements to Trico Construction of San Francisco in the amount of $726,613. Establish a contract contingency in the amount of $109,000 and authorize a capital budget increase in the amount of $944,000 in the fiscal year 21-22 Bridge Division capital budget for project number 2121, Toll Plaza Administration Building Elevator Replacement, as concurred with by the Finance Auditing Committee and as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
And so a motion, and do we have a second?
Second, Rabbit.
There's one. Are there questions or comments from board members on item 8B2? Seeing and hearing none. Madam Secretary, again, a roll call vote.
Thank you. Voting on item 8B2 with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold. Who's absent? Director Conroy. Director Conroy. We'll circle back to Director Conroy. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice. It's absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Maston,
Aye.
Director Milgar is absent, Director Parr,
Aye.
Director Rabbit,
Aye.
Director Rodoni,
Aye.
Director Snyder,
Aye.
Director Stephanie,
Aye.
Director Thier,
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill,
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran,
Yes.
and President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to circle back. Director Conroy?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. You have 14 ayes.
Thank you. And so another item approved. Chair Garbarino, please soldier on.
Thank you. The Building and Operating Committee is now recommending approval of item 8B3 to authorize the general manager to execute an agreement with the San Francisco Bay Area Water Emergency Transportation Authority in the amount of $300,000 regarding a 6-month demonstration project on the San Francisco Bay utilizing a hydrogen cell fuel ferry as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
And we have a motion. And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And there's a second. Any questions or comments from board members on this item?
I did have one question. This is Director Grosbo.
Please go ahead, Director Goswell.
I walked out for a minute. This is the hydrogen fuel cell item, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Let me ask you, our friend, Mr. Rhodey commented about there's green hydrogen and apparently non-green hydrogen. And I realize this is an experiment, but is this green hydrogen we're dealing with, or do we know for sure?
We do not know at this juncture.
When will we know?
In the coming weeks. The key thing is that we'll learn how the technology works, and then at a future date, if we had a hydrogen fuel cell ferry or bus, we would have the option of procuring either green, blue, or brown hydrogen based on how it's generated. The same applies to electricity. If you have an electric bus and you plug it into the grid in LA and you're getting power from a coal-powered plant in Arizona, it's not green. So hydrogen, you're more direct. It's closer to you in terms of how clean your energy is. But green hydrogen refers to hydrogen made with renewable energy, such as wind or solar, utilizing water as opposed to making it from methane and natural gas.
Well, aside from at some point liking to get a compliment from Mr. Rhodey, I think many of us would hope that it's as green as possible. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Grosswell. Any other directors with comments or questions on this item? Then it's time for another roll call vote, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. We're voting on item 8B3 with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold. Who's absent? Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Milgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
An enthusiastic yes for the purposes of what this project is about. Thank you.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 14 ayes.
14 ayes, and this item is adopted. Chair Garbarino, please continue.
Thank you. The Building and Operating Committee is also recommending an approval of item 8B4 to approve award of sole source contract number 2022D046 software maintenance for Intuit, software to Intuit Init. Thank you, Amaret, for that parens. Innovations in Transportation Incorporated of Chesapeake, Virginia, in the amount of $1,062,258.18 for a 3-year term. Authorize a contract contingency in the amount of $53,113, and authorize the general manager to approve future years' annual recurring maintenance and support for the Init CAD ALV system beyond the initial 3-year term, with the understanding that subsequent years' maintenance and support may be subject to an annual cost increase not to exceed 5% of the prior year's annual cost, as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you, Chair Garbarino. Another motion there. And is there another second?
Second.
There's a second. Are there questions or comments from board members on item 8B4? Seeing again and hearing none, Madam Secretary, yet another roll call vote.
Thank you. We're both voting on 8B4 with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold. Is absent. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosboll.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit. Thank
Aye.
you. Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 14 ayes again.
And there we are, another approval. Chair Garbarino, take a deep breath and go on, please.
Thank you. The Building and Operating Committee is recommending approval of item 8B5 to authorize execution of professional services agreements with Blue Chip Tech of Santa Clara, California, Intervision of Santa Clara, California, Looking Point of Walnut Creek, California, Presidio Network Solutions of Pleasanton, California, and Worldwide Technology of Maryland Heights, Missouri, relative to requests for proposals number 2021 D077, Cisco and VMware professional services to provide on-call professional technology consultant services for a 3-year term, with 2 additional 1-year option terms to be exercised at the general manager's discretion in a total not to exceed amount of $3,750,000 over the entire term of all 5 contracts, with the understanding that the aggregate annual spending across all 5 contracts will not exceed $750,000 in any 1 year, as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you again, Chair Garbarino. So there's a motion, and once more, I'm looking for a second.
Second.
There's a second. Any questions or comments from the board on this item? And again, seeing and hearing none. Again, Madam Secretary, a roll call vote, please.
Thank you. Voting on item 8B5, starting with Director Arnold. Who's absent? Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosboll.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Milgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 14 ayes.
Approved again. Chair Garbarino, have you had quite enough of us now?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a privilege to say that that concludes my report.
And thank you very much. Madam Secretary, on to the next item on the agenda.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 8C, and that's the report of the Finance Auditing Committee meeting, also of yesterday, May 19th. And that summary of recommendations for this can be found on page 55 of your meeting packet. And I'll turn it back to you, President Terrio.
Thank you. As with the other items, the items in 8C were discussed at yesterday's Finance and Auditing Committee meeting before coming before us today. I'd like to add also that we received our initial presentation of the district's fiscal year 2022-2023 proposed budget, which is an extremely detailed document. There was discussion of that also. Chair Rabbit, please begin your committee's report to the board.
Great. Thank you very much, President Terrio, and I agree. The proposed budget contains a lot of information. Thanks to the Auditor Controller, Joe Wire, and his entire staff for once again putting together such a comprehensive budget document during a time of constant change. And I encourage everyone to go through the budget document and reach out to Joe with any questions before the next finance meeting on June 23rd. So with that, the Finance Auditing Committee is recommending approval of item 8C1 to authorize an execution of a joint exercise of powers agreement, or a JEPA, for processing parking citations at the Larkspur Ferry Terminal and other district properties located in Marin County, as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you, Chair Rabbit. I do encourage anyone from the public who hasn't had a look at it to crack open that document. You've got about a month before we come back to it, and you can acquaint yourself with it in that meantime. So there's a motion on the item. Is there a second?
Second.
And there's a second. Are there board members with questions or comments on item 8C1, the execution of a joint exercise of powers agreement? Seeing and hearing none, again, Madam Secretary, roll call vote, please.
Thank you. We're voting on item 8C1 with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy. Director Conroy. We'll come back. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Maston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Tirio.
Yes.
Thank you. And I'll circle back. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Thank you. You have 14 ayes.
14 ayes, and the motion passes. Chair Rabbit, onward, please.
The Finance Auditing Committee is also recommending authorization of item 8C2 to authorize the general manager to execute the Fifth Amendment to contract number 2011-MD-01, Armored Carrier Collection Service with Brinks, Inc. of Popel, Texas, in the amount not to exceed $250,000 to extend the agreement for 1 year with up to 12 additional 1-month option terms, to modify the rate and schedule service, and to add cash processing services for ticket vending machines as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
And so there is a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And there is a second. Questions or comments again from members of the board on this? And again, seeing and hearing nothing, Madam Secretary, the roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on items 8C2, starting with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier. Director Thier.
Aye. Sorry
Thank
about
you.
that.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Tirio.
Yes.
You
Thank
skipped
you.
over Director Maston.
Oh, I'm sorry, Director Maston. I was too busy looking up at all these lights setting up. Director Maston.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. You have 14 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. That item then also is adopted. Chair Rabbit, you have more for us, I think.
I do. The Finance Auditing Committee is also recommending authorization of Board Agenda Item 8C3 to authorize the setting of a public hearing to receive public comment on the proposed establishment of a pilot program for a educational institutional clipper pass on Golden Gate Transit Bus and Golden Gate Ferry, as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
And thank you, Chair Rabbit, for the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Couple seconds left out there. Questions or comments from board members on item 8C3? Once again, hearing and seeing none, Madam Secretary, once more roll call vote.
Thank you. We're going to vote on item 8C3, starting with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Melgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni.
Aye.
Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
A very enthusiastic yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
and President Terrio.
Yes,
Thank you. You have 14 ayes.
and another approval. Chair Rabbit. That was not quite as long as Director Garbarino had to go through, but do you have anything more?
No, that concludes my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
And we thank you. Madam Secretary, the next item on the agenda, please.
We're going to move on to item 8D, and that's the report of the Rules Policy and Industrial Relations Committee. And that meeting met this morning. That committee met this morning, Friday, May 20th, and that summary of recommendations found on page 57 of your packet. So I'll turn it back to you, President Terrio.
Thank you, Chair Hernandez. Please begin your committee's report.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. The Rules Policy and Industrial Relations Committee met earlier this morning and is recommending approval of Board Agenda Item number 8D1 to approve federal fiscal years 2022-23 through 2024-25 disadvantaged business enterprise goal on Federal Transit Administration assisted projects as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you for the motion, Chair Hernandez. Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or comments from board members on item 8D1? And again, I see and hear none. So again, Madam Secretary, a roll call vote.
Thank you. We have a first and a second on item 8D1. So I'll start with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Milgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni. Director Rodoni has left our call. Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 13 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Chair Hernandez, please continue your report.
Thank you again, Mr. President. The Rules Policy and Industrial Relations Committee is also recommending item number 8D2 to authorize a salary adjustment for Bridge Patrol Officer classification as detailed in the staff report, and I so move.
Thank you, Chair Hernandez. There's a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And a
President
second.
Terrio.
Yes, please.
Director Snyder has his hand up and he was just trying to, I think he's trying to alert us to the fact that he's going to be leaving the call.
Yeah, I'm going to leave the call on this vote. And we represent some of the folks on that bargaining unit, so I'll recuse myself.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll see you soon, Director Snyder, and thank you, Madam Secretary, for pointing that out. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from board members on item 8D2? I see Director Hill. Director Hill, go ahead, please.
I just want to note that this is one group that regularly saves many lives every year. And it's very, very critical to the operations of this bridges district.
Thank you, Director Hill. Any other directors with questions, comments, or concerns? I see and hear no others. Madam Secretary, then a roll call vote.
Thank you. We have a first and a second on item 8D2, starting with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy.
Aye.
Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Milgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit. Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Rodoni is absent. Director Snyder is absent. Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Terrio.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 12 ayes.
12 ayes does it. Chair Hernandez, do you have anything further to report?
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, I'm going to interject here that we do not normally go on, we not normally include item number 9, addresses to the board, but I am informed that today we do have an address to the board. Director Hernandez, if you would, please.
Thank you very much, President Terrio, for allowing me to make a few comments today. I do have 2 things I want to to say today. First, I want to thank all of the employees. Of course, we value every employee that helps the district be what it is, whether you're driving a bus or painting the bridge or servicing someone over the telephone with information. All of our employees are very important, but I do appreciate the special recognition of my IBEW sister, April Dubois, who is the first woman electrician on the Bridge District, who was recognized today for 20 years of service here at the district. Thank you also to President Terrio for the special recognition of that mark in her career. I also want to inform the district that and my colleagues that that the first woman of color electrician was hired just recently. So now 20 years later, we have our second woman electrician working at the district, and she happens to be a woman of color. For an industry where building trades, for example, where only 3% of workers in the building trades are women and only about 10% are people of color, the district, at least in the electrical division, is doing very well with, I believe, about a 50% representation of people of color within the electrical division, and now about 20% women. So that's wonderful. But I also am especially grateful for the opportunity to recognize that today May marks the 2-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And as we all know, that this world changed after that day 2 years ago. It was an event that happened in Minneapolis, but arguably it had impacts across the world, resulting in important discussions examining the effects of racism in this country. And certainly we had those discussions here. I want to thank Director Parr, who at the time of this event was courageous enough to decide that we needed to do something more at the district. She gave me the honor of being chairman of a newly formed advisory committee on diversity and equity here at the district. And the district has been committed since then to addressing these issues. So again, thank you very much to Director Parr for authorizing that committee. Thank you to Director Terrio for allowing that committee to continue to exist. Thank you to the committee members who are continuing to do that important work. And certainly to all the staff that has made a commitment to support that committee, provide information as appropriate, and help the district get that work done. The committee is continuing to do great work. We're valuing procurement policy. We're doing evaluations also of how we manage, support, recruit district staff. We're looking at policies and practices as relate to our relationships with our community, the people that use our facilities and our services, and staff on its own. I want to especially recognize staff for they're doing things on their own initiative aside from recommendations that may be coming from the committee. And I want to, all within, all departments, people are looking through a different lens now when it comes to procurement, when it comes to policy. And even without the prompting of the committee, there have been special efforts, I think, made throughout the district to try to reach a higher level in terms of equity and diversity. For example, there was a recent policy change that made some modifications as to the way we levy penalties for individuals who may become delinquent in paying their tolls and have to pay toll violations. So, and that was a reflection of our view toward reaching equity when it comes to folks that are economically disadvantaged. We've signed on also to the APTA. APTA is the American Public Transportation Association. We've signed on to their racial equity commitment program. We have our administrative division is doing diversity awareness campaigns throughout divisions within our employees. And there's just a lot of great work that's happening. And I just wanted to recognize the fact that we are doing that not just within the committee, but as throughout the staff. We're going to continue to do that work. It's important work. And on this second year anniversary of that unfortunate day, I think it's important that we recognize, recall, and recognize that our commitment is continuing and will be ongoing. So thank you very much, Director Terrier, President Terrier, for the opportunity to share that information. And again, thank you everyone for being part of that commitment to change. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hernandez, for your advocacy in this regard and for your devotion to the advisory committee. I will, in some defensiveness, say that my own local has been for quite a while majority minority, and however, that we, like pretty much the entire construction industry, are woefully short of women in our ranks. So we still have plenty of room for improvement. Are there any other board members who wish to make an address to the board? Then seeing none, Madam Secretary, please continue with the next item on the agenda.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 10A relative to conducting remote committee and board meetings, this time without state guidance in place. And that brief staff report is on page 59, recommending the board continue to adopt a resolution to allow us to continue remote meetings in accordance with Assembly Bill 361. And I respectfully request the board's approval on this item with the understanding that the board could potentially be considering it again at its meeting next month on June 24th.
So moved. For second.
So there's various motions and seconds. However, we should actually take a moment to look for discussion too. Are there board members who with comments or questions, et cetera, on this item? And there are not. So Madam Secretary, a roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on item 10A with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy, I believe, is now left. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Thank you. Director Mulgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni is absent. Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Theriault.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 12 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next item, please.
We're going to move on to agenda item number 10B, and that's the discussion and possible action to terminate the suspension of board procedural rules and policies for COVID-19 related emergency actions. Mr. Mulligan's brief staff reports on page 61. He's available to answer any questions directors may have.
Are there questions for the general manager? Seeing and hearing none, then what I would look for is a motion to continue consideration of this item until special business at the next regular meeting of the board.
So move.
There's a
Second.
motion and there's a second. Any discussion on this beyond that? And again, none. Madam Secretary, another roll call vote.
Thank you. We're voting on item 10B with the first and second, starting with Director Arnold, who's absent. Director Conroy is absent. Director Garbarino.
Aye.
Director Giudice is absent. Director Grosball.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Meston.
Aye.
Director Milgar is absent. Director Parr.
Aye.
Director Rabbit.
Aye.
Director Rodoni is absent. Director Snyder.
Aye.
Director Stephanie.
Aye.
Director Thier.
Aye.
Second Vice President Hill.
Yes.
First Vice President Cochran.
Yes.
And President Theriault.
Yes.
Thank you. You have 12 ayes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. So we have no unfinished business or new business to report. Item number 13 is communications, and I'll remind my colleagues, if you'd like a copy of the communications, please contact the district secretary. We have reached the end of the agenda. There are no further items to be presented to the board. Thanks to everyone who joined us today for today's meeting and to all of our viewers on YouTube. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move.
Mr. President.
Second.
Motion, second, various things floating around there. Are there any objections to adjourning? Hearing none, we will adjourn today's meeting in memory of Norm Mineta, former Secretary of Transportation, Nicholas Leonidakis, brother of former director Stephen Leonidakis. Herbert David Thier, father of director Holly Thier.
Thank you.
Siegfried Fred Knauer, family member of director Gerard Giudice. I will add one in. I became aware in the course of this meeting that a sweet man with my bicycle often across this bridge, Matinews, was struck and killed by a driver on a ride in Virginia. Please join me in a moment of silence. This concludes the meeting of the Board of Directors. The time is 11:15 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Jerry, oops, left.
Michael, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I share your feelings.
Thank you.